What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another part of this video. This is a part 2 of the video that I recently posted on my channel, which was me basically building and putting this squat rack together. A lot of you liked it and said some really nice things about it, and a lot of you guys were really trying to replicate it. I tried to provide as much detail as I could, when in reality I didn't have a plan for it. I just kind of built as I went. And so today in this video, I'm going to give you my full-on update and review on this squat rack. And personally, I wanted to wait about a week or so for me to put it to the test and give you my honest opinion, my honest review on it. Hopefully in this video you can find the pros and cons about this squat rack, but so far it's been doing really well and I have no issues with it. And if you decided to replicate it or build it yourself, I hope that it could work well and provide you the equipment you're looking for while we're all in this quarantine together. Alright, so before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick tour of the squat rack and kind of go over the details that I didn't get to in the first video. So ideally this squat rack is similar to your traditional full-on rack, but basically trimmed to mimic a single squat rack without losing the functionality of a full rack. So at the very top you have your pull-up or chin-up bar, and then you have your adjustable J-cups, which I used. Not exactly sure what these are called, but they're plumbing pipes with little bar ends and drilled holes on both of the studs, and those are basically acting as little insertions for my J-cups. And if you remember my first video, I didn't have the J-cups adjustable, and they were just kind of fixed in certain heights that worked for me. Well, this time you could literally take those off and adjust them to the height that I prefer, and so they work pretty well. And down here, these act as my safety rails or safety guards. They are not adjustable, but this is the perfect height for me that I need if I ever do fail on a bench or squat, and at the same time I could also do rack pulls and even shrugs on this height of a platform. So it really is a multifunctional squat rack. This is the only area that is not adjustable, but everything else is pretty much sort of adjustable. Now when I built the squat rack, I tried to keep it as minimal as possible, and I didn't want beams or safety arms laying around on the sides. So I basically carved out small little insertions for these studs to go into and supported with these metal joints or connectors or whatever you call them. So the studs being inserted into the main base at the bottom, along with some metal insertions or joints, made the structure of this squat rack really durable. And it doesn't wiggle as much as you would think, and it's actually very sturdy, and I can load it up with as much as 315 so far. I don't have a lot of weight on me in this garage, but I've been able to load 315 on the bar and be okay with it. So like I said, I tried to keep this build as minimal as possible without losing functionality and safety, and I achieved both of them and made this look a lot better than my previous single squat rack that I built for $50. Okay. For the pulley system, I used plumbing pipes, which were drilled into those little beams that I used, and I used these little pulleys on both sides all the way to the bottom where the weight is evenly distributed. The main goal of this squat rack was to have a full rack with a lat pull down tower, and that was the main goal, so I really did focus on that. And one of my goals too was to build it without having a bunch of clutter and unnecessary fillers and woods at the top, and so I try to keep it as minimal and clean as possible. So that would be the lat pull down tower, which you can attach ropes or flat bars. And I have these custom flat bars that I made, basically just leftover pipes that I used before and drilled in the middle with those hooks that I bought from Home Depot. So I have a longer bar for wide grip lat pull downs, and then I have a smaller one for either curls, tricep extensions, or even rows. The squat rack is built with high pull down and low rows. So either way, top or bottom, they'll work. I have 2 pulley systems at the top and 1 at the bottom. Basically all I have to do is take this cable, which is basically hooked right there, and attach it to the main pulley right at the top. And now you have a low pulley and you have a rowing system. And I'll show you guys how it's going to operate in a bit. I'm going to do a full upper body workout, and I'm going to try to utilize this rack as much as I can. That way you can see what all it can do. But so far, this has been a really great build. It does what I need it to do, and it saved me a lot of money from buying a full squat rack. If you're wondering how much it cost me to build this or put it together, I think overall, with the little mistakes I've made, cost me about $285 total. I know I have the receipt somewhere, but it wasn't any more than $300, which to me is a really great deal, because if you were to get a rack like this, like an actual rack, obviously you couldn't compare this to an actual rack, because once you put this together, you just wouldn't take it apart and store it, because then that kind of compromises its durability. And this is kind of built for basically a fixed squat rack that you would leave in one spot and never touch again, as compared to a full rack where you can take it apart and store it away if you needed to. But comparing prices, you could not beat the price that I built this for, which was $285 compared to a $1,500 squat rack, which basically does the same thing. If this was a permanent thing for me, I honestly would have gotten with a full rack, a full metal rack, because then I wouldn't have to worry about the wood aging or being damaged in the future. But the squat rack was really built and intended to keep me going and provide me something that I can use while we are in quarantine, because in reality, once the gyms open back up and I'm back at work again, I would not need a garage gym any longer, because then I'll be working out at my gym. Because of the quarantine and lack of equipment in my garage, a lot of my workouts lately have been circuits. I would try to do one compound movement that I really enjoy just to keep me going, and then I'd move on to some circuits. So in this video, I'm gonna start with some incline bench presses, and then I'll start with a circuit utilizing the squat rack, the pulleys, the lat pull down towers and stuff, and basically just give you the whole circuit that I'll be doing today. Yeah, let's get on with it. So these are the J-cups that I'm using. It's basically a steel pipe with some threads on both sides. I don't know what this is called, but this is basically the main guard of this J-cup. And then you have your little back end that you can twist and tighten up, and you can insert this through the stud, tighten this up, and you're all secured. By the way, these are 10-pound cement that I paid somebody to make for me. They look pretty big. They look about 25 pounds, but in reality, they're just 10-pounders. You can make these yourself pretty easy. Get a bag of cement and you can use a trowel to mold them, or if you can get on Amazon or anywhere and buy molding plates, you can get away with that too. Yeah, easy to make. Can be a little messy if you're not good with cement, but yeah, if you don't want to spend too much money on actual weights, you can build these yourself. A bag of cement is about 10 bucks, and you can make a bunch of these to get you through this quarantine. So keep that in mind. All right, so that was the first working set. I had about 155 on the bar. So now I got about 3 more working sets and just be progressive with it. Alright guys, so I'm going to cut the workout portion of the video here and I'll talk about the squat rack itself. So as you saw, the squat rack will perform just as well as a traditional squat rack, whether it's single or full. Now when you're building the squat rack, you just have to make sure the quality of the build is good and that it won't fail or give out on you, okay? And also when you're using something like this, you really have to use your best judgment as to how much you should load and how you're going to utilize it. This rack was intended for light daily use for as long as I'm in quarantine and no access to the gym. I am no professional power lifter by no means, but at the same time, I can lift a decent amount of weight and I would not dare try maxing out on this, whether it's on a squat, a bench press, or whatever it may be. I trust my ability, I trust my craftsman to build something really sturdy, but at the same time, is it worth the risk? Probably not, right? And that's the reason why I say trust your best judgment when you're using something like this, especially if it's a DIY or it's made out of wood. Personally, I know for a fact that this can hold the amount of weight that I can physically lift. 1, I don't have that much weight, and 2, like I said, I don't have a spotter and I don't want to risk it just to prove that it can handle a lot of weight. Now, there are pros and cons to building the squat rack. 1, it's very cost effective. If you're looking for something quick, something cheap, something that's going to hold you accountable and keep you going with your workouts, with your routine while the gyms are closed, then this is probably your best bet without having to invest that much money. The main points I had in mind before I built the squat rack was that I did not want to spend a lot of money on a squat rack. Basically, I just needed something that I can get by with. And 2, I love building, I love crafting, I love woodworking, and so I thought it'd be a cool idea to build something like this without breaking the bank. Well, it gets the job done and it gives me a full-on multifunctional setup that I can use in my own garage. The pulley system, the lat pull-down tower that I built, works awesome. Now that was probably the trickiest part of this build, is that you need to be precise with your measurements and your installations. Otherwise, that whole pulley thing is not going to go up and down and glide with those bars smoothly. So there will be some trial and error as far as installing that and getting it to fit the right way and to get that bar to go up and down smoothly. So if you have any other questions, please leave them down below. If you're looking for a blueprint to this squat rack, I apologize. That's something I would not be able to give to you just because I don't actually have a blueprint for it. I simply thought about it and just kind of adjusted as I went and built it. Okay, measurements, you can literally just look up any traditional squat rack and copy the measurements. As far as width, I don't know what the actual measurements are on top of my head, but as far as width, it's basically the same as a traditional squat rack, and everything else was just tailored to how I wanted it and what looked good to me. So a lot of the things, a lot of the measurements with this build, I literally eyeballed and said, okay, here's a ruler, okay, that looks good, mark it, cut it, measure it, whatever, and voila, that's it, right? Again, I can't think of anything else as far as details or information that I could provide to you or for you, but if you do find this video and you start watching it and something comes up in your mind and you wanted to ask, please leave them down in the comments section below and I'll try my best to answer them. If you guys like these videos and find them informational or helpful or valuable, please do not hesitate to like them. You can even subscribe to the channel because I try to upload videos at least once a week, and if you find this video helpful, you can even share it with a friend or family or whoever you'd like to share it to. But yeah, that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll try to upload more of these valuable content as much as I can. All right, I hope everybody's doing well during this quarantine time. Stay safe, keep up with your fitness goals, and